My name is Ian and welcome to my gardening channel, Planted. In this episode I'm going to unwrap my garden that's protected some choice plants through the winter, and I'm going to show you what to look for and what the next step is. So let's get right into it. First up is my hardy banana. I've spoken about this at length before. There's a number of videos in the back catalogue, and it's a wonderful plant for kids, well worth having, and I'm really impressed at the way this came through the winter. Typically, the plant may look a lot worse than this, and you can see that there's a number of large, thick corms or stems that I had expected to have been a little bit more collapsed, but they're not because they were of such a good size. The key here is to cut back all the soggy, wet mass of foliage. These are the skins of the stems that have gone through the winter and have not stood up to the cold temperatures. And what I want to do is get some heat into here and get some sunlight. And if you can remove that wet, soggy, cold layer of growth, then that is the whole goal. I'm very pleased with the way this came through the winter. Do not be tempted to cut it back any further than this. We want the heat to get in there, and then we can start to see what's alive. I'm optimistic that the main stems are actually going to stay intact and put out new shoots. They look terrible right now. They're very soft and flaccid, and there's nothing about them that would indicate that they're going to reshoot. But as I uncover this stem, we start to get back to growth that's a little bit more robust. There we go, right there. So I'm delighted. That's Musa basjoo. Get it uncovered, get some sunlight in there, but also exercise some patience. This plant is called Edgeworthia, and last year I built a little greenhouse of old windows, and then I pruned it back. And this year I had to make a different frame, but I want to show you how effective this use of leaves as insulation is. I had some 4 pieces of plywood screwed together, and then I filled it full of old leaves that were dry when I filled it. And the secret is you want to keep them dry. You don't want them to get soaking wet and go through the entire winter like that. That's not ideal. So I was so happy when I was uncovering this and taking off the layers of wrapping that I had protecting the plant, that the leaves were dry, and that means that their insulation capabilities is fully intact. Nice thing about leaves is it's nature's insulation. You're not giving the plant anything artificial or in any way that's going to change the way that it grows. And then these leaves will get turned into the garden in the coming weeks, and my plant has survived another winter. Now, we had one weekend where it got bitterly cold, and I think that I did lose a few flower buds. I've got one at the bottom here, and not surprising, that's because it was buried deeper in the pile of leaves. But there we go, that's the Edgeworthia, another plant that came through the cold winter. And then another plant that I wrap is this fig. Now I think that this fig could probably have gone through the winter, but it takes me half an hour to wrap it, and it takes me less than 10 minutes to unwrap it. So, it's not a lot of effort for a greatly increased chance of plant survivability. Now this last winter, I bunched all the branches together and didn't do much of a heavy prune because you never know what's going to come through the winter. You might get huge dieback, and you may as well leave it, see what's alive, then prune it, rather than pruning prematurely. So this had a couple of layers wrapped around it so it could breathe. Here I am just opening up the branches, and sunlight is the elixir. That's what this plant needs. And I'm delighted that this came through the winter beautifully. The thicker branches are a healthy color. The thinner branches that are not quite so hardy, you can see, are browner. And they may not come back, but that's all right. The plant's alive. Thank you so much. This is the sign that spring is with us. Go dig a hole, go plant something.